Welcome back to the Act 2 podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And as a reminder, Act 2 is a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This podcast is just one of the things we do, so thank you for joining us here. Please remember, subscribe to the podcast. We got stuff coming up, and then you get an alert on your phone. So you don't even have to be like, what should I listen to today? It'll just be there.
Yeah, it's magical.
Magic. But we can't force you to do anything. So if you don't want to do that, one thing you can do today is reach out to us with your questions, with your topic suggestions, because we know you have them. Reach out at ActTwoWriters@gmail.com, all spelled out, or on our Instagram and Twitter at ActTwoWriters. I'm Story Thursday on Instagram and Tasha 3.0 on Twitter.
I am Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram. Sometimes I fire up the podcast. I just hit record. Tasha right now just finished a strong workout. She was
Feel good.
wiping her glasses like
I
a
am.
movie.
I'm sweaty today, guys, but it's just how it's gonna be. I thought about it. I was like scarfing down breakfast between like finishing my workout and coming here. And I was like, we're on YouTube. We have video clips. Like a normal person would shower and wear something nice. I ain't got time for that shit, which is actually, it dovetails really well into the podcast we're going to talk about today. About multitasking, but
Yeah, this is a great topic.
I have some things I want to ask you about first.
Is this Week in Writing, or is this just like therapy hour on the podcast?
This Week in Writing.
This Week in Writing.
Well, first I want to say we have merch in the store, and I'm wearing it. Yes, it's so comfy. And we have mugs, which I'm also drinking out of today.
I'm drinking this iced coffee, and I just this morning read this article about how bad it is to drink coffee from plastic cups.
Really?
There's like a whole plastic thing. Yeah, because of the little particles. I feel like that's been around forever, but whatever. And for some reason, I was like, man, I really should make a conscious effort not to drink out of plastic cups. And now here I am just crushing this little plastic straw that might hit a turtle in the ocean. And then
What's the solution? You bring your own cup and say, I want to do my iced coffee in this.
No, I think it's actually more of a coffee shop problem.
Right. That's fair.
I just want to drink my coffee, man.
Don't put it on me.
It's not my problem, man. All right.
Okay, so that's my first This Week in Writing, is a reminder to go get this awesome shirt. The next one, Josh. Have you seen Naked Gun?
I have not seen Naked Gun.
Have I seen Naked Gun first?
I actually have no idea. I really, really, really want to see Naked Gun.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I love
man.
The Lonely Island. I love Akiva. I like The Naked Gun, and I'm so excited for it. I can't believe I haven't seen it yet. What'd you think?
You gotta go save comedies. Liam Neeson put out that PSA and everything. We gotta save comedies by going to see them in theaters.
I know.
I laughed out loud at a few. There are some things I couldn't get over that was just so funny. But for the most part, I was like, yep, that's Naked Gun. Yep, that's Naked Gun.
But it was consistently funny.
It was consistently Naked Gun.
Wow.
But that's a good thing, right? Like it's a really faithful sort of reboot of the franchise. It made me think a lot about comedy, and has comedy changes per generation, or does it? Like, can Naked Gun reboot this kind of crazy slapstick comedy that I think we've lost, actually?
Yeah.
That, bred a lot of Will Ferrell movies, for example, that I also never watched. So I don't know. What is your opinion about comedies? You write a lot of comedy.
Yeah, comedy's definitely changed. I mean, things evolved. Like things like The Hangover right now couldn't be made for various reasons. The jokes in The Hangover, obviously, the concept, it would just kind of be a little bit of a different movie. I know you don't like what I'm about to say, but I love Talladega Nights. I love The Other Guys. I love Anchorman. I love the Will Ferrell comedies.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just an evolution. It's so reflective of the time and what people can stomach, and it's so subjective. That's the other thing.
is so subjective.
I hope we kind of enter a new phase of comedy. That would be like my favorite thing. Just not from a writing perspective, but even from a just movie perspective. I feel like people need comedy. I don't want to keep going to the movie and watch like depressing end of the world AI type Civil War movies. And I'm like, oh my God, just give me something to escape.
Well, I think this is good news. It made $73 million worldwide, which is almost twice as much as it cost.
That's great. No, it's getting great. Everyone loves it. I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
This kind of ties into one of my this week's in writing.
Go.
That I wanted to just talk about. My mom was visiting, and she loves our thing. We love going to movies. I love seeing movies. Whatever, we saw a ton when I was younger, so she loves going with me. And
is your mom the person who like started your love for movies?
I mean, I'm sure. Like we saw a movie. I used to watch movies all the time.
Yeah.
She did drop me off at the theater by myself, and I would just stay there. But that's neither here nor there.
But that's like those are like the best summers when that would happen. I would do that as well, and I would just see movies without paying for them.
No, movie hopping. So like some 12-year-old kid moving from movie theater to theater to theater.
Okay, sorry.
So she's like, "Honey, what do you want to do today?" And I was like, "Mom, I have an idea. I'm going to take you to go see a movie called Weapons." And she was like, "What is it?" I was like, "It's a scary movie." She's like, "What's it about?" And I was like, "Let's just go see it. I'm not going to tell you a single thing." So I took my mom to go see Weapons, and it was quite the roller coaster. She was freaked when she doesn't do well, I think, with kids go missing stuff.
You mean the premise of the movie?
Yeah, that's why I couldn't really tell her. But she does like scary movies, and I saw Weapons with her. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was kind of flirting with the idea of the Naked Gun, because I think that was maybe playing around the same time. But I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to see Weapons.
I remember the text you sent that you're taking your mom to see Weapons, but you didn't tell her anything about it. And I was like, oh my God. For some reason, I imagined your mom, and this is, I guess, being sexist or something, that like she just like did not like horror was not her thing, and she liked sort of like simpler movies, I think.
Yeah,
like easier to digest. And Weapons is not a simple movie to digest, and it's horrifying, especially if you're a parent. So like the fact you were just gonna spring this on her was awful, but also one of the funniest things that happened to me that day.
Well, in the beginning of it, that little narration says, "This is a true story based on this and this." And my mom was like, "This is a true story." I was like, "Yeah."
It says that?
Yeah. She's like, the narration says, "This is based on a true story, but no one will tell you about it."
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And, you'll never hear about this or that and whatever. And so I should also say we're going to do a little Patreon breakdown of Weapons, which I think you and I both loved, but okay.
We loved it. It was so interesting. We're going to read the script, and we're going to watch the movie, and we're going to then talk about it in a Zoom Q&A with our Patreon subscribers. And I'm excited about that. People are so smart on our Patreon, and it's always a really good conversation. So if you are not a subscriber already, head on over there, and you can get in before we do it, which is, I believe,
it's soon.
We're so good at this. Anyways, check it out. We do a lot of this stuff every month, which is really fun. Okay, my next thing for this week in writing, K-pop Demon Hunters.
Let's just go.
You've seen it. There's no doubt you haven't.
Multiple times. I listen to the album every day.
Isn't it so good?
Yeah. I've seen it so many times, though, that I'm like at the point where I'm like, by the way, I've seen it because my daughter loves this movie, and I've heard the album before I watched the movie. So I kind of like, I've got so many thoughts on this. This is like a whole other can of worms.
Can you give us like a preview of what your thoughts are?
Yes, I think it's great. Just moving out of that, in the music aspect of it, which I thought the music was really brilliant because it kind of, you can listen independently and also in the movie, and they're talking about tattoos and scars and being someone's idol and this and this and this. And so it's brilliant. What's insane to me is that I noticed Huntrix, the band from K-pop Demon Hunters, has the number one song in the world called Golden, but they're listed as Huntrix on like Apple Music and Spotify. And I read something that said Huntrix is the first girl group since Destiny's Child to have a #1 overall song in the country or in the world. And I was like, this isn't a real fucking band. This is a made-up thing from K-pop Demon Hunters. That's like saying Elsa has the #1 song in the world with Let It Go. And it just like blew my mind. Like we entered some weird content consumption.
In watching it, I did feel this because you feel a fandom. Like that's a big part of the movie is fandom. And you feel a fandom towards either the girl band or the boy band.
Yeah.
And when you have a fandom like that, you want to like get their poster and like a figurine of them and you like their merch. And I'm like, do I want Huntress merch? Do I want Sacha Boys merch?
Yeah.
And they're not even real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It does sort of blur this weird line. But when in watching it on Netflix, they do promote that the band, the women who sing for the Huntrix is actually a girl band called Twice. And so why aren't
Well,
wait, not?
They sing some of the songs.
Oh, they sing some of the songs.
They don't sing all of the songs.
Oh, are they sung by different people?
I believe so. And I think some of the songs are produced by the same producers of Blackpink, another K-pop group.
Yeah. Huh.
I might be able to tell you more about K-pop and this movie than I could about my recent spec.
I think so. We'll offline about this. This is a really cool movie if you haven't seen it. It's not just for kids.
No, it's
not.
not.
We don't have kids, and we really enjoyed it. And Paul hates musicals, so he was like, well, we'll see what happens. He was in it.
Really?
We both downloaded the soundtrack afterwards, and I heard him in the kitchen just like bopping to it on his own. So
just
it's
little
fun.
soda pop. It's like Netflix's Frozen. It's a phenomenon. It's unbelievable.
A phenomenon. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And it's also a good movie. Okay. Yeah. My last This Week in Writing is actually like a This Week in Writing, where I met with my agents last week to do sort of a touch base. And I just want to talk about doing that because I know a lot of people have questions about like, how do I wrangle my agents, or I'm having issues with my agents, or I don't know what to do next with my agents. What do I do? And I always recommend a sit down with them. And so I just want to walk through a little bit of what that sit down was. It was to say like what comes next, right? Because a couple of my jobs are going to be ending at the end of this year, which means I'm not going to have a paycheck next year, which means, oh my God, I'm going to die. Mm-hmm. That's the feeling. So it was to get us all on the same page, for me to update them on where my projects are currently, when I'm going to be done with them, so that they can look ahead to know when they should start setting meetings and what kind of meetings I want. Like, I want to get into rewrites. I want to be the person that studios go to rewrite a movie, to get it ready to greenlight, because that is one of the skills that I have. As a showrunner, you're constantly doing that, especially in big worlds. I can really help there. And so, like, get into the rewrite game. Something that's interesting about that is that Simon Kinberg, for instance, who did all the X-Men movies, like, he started as a rewriter. I mean, not started, but like that's where he gained his reputation, was he would rewrite and take rewrite jobs until people started seeing him as the guy who could get movies over the line, get them greenlight. They built a really huge trust in him, and then he started doing his own stuff. They started sending him IP, et cetera, et cetera. Now he's Simon Kinberg. So the rewrite path is a path that I want to explore. So I asked them to kind of get on that by the end of the year and early next year. I explained to them that I really want to take time to write a spec, and I want to carve out time for that. So like, give me the breathing room to do that, which means they're going to be trying less to put me up for OWAs, open writing assignments, and allowing me the time and space to build a spec by early next year, which I love. We talked about what I want to be doing in TV and what some of my ideas are, and people that they should be setting me up on meetings with, et cetera, et cetera. So I left that meeting feeling like we all have marching orders, and I have homework, they have homework. And that is the best case scenario when you're leaving a meeting like that, where you have a particular plan. And it's good too for those of you who have reps who you feel like aren't working for you, because when you have a particular plan and then your reps don't deliver on that plan when you all agreed you would in this meeting, then you have like definitive evidence to support that they're not working for you. And you can either use that to say, hey guys, we talked about this, or you can use it to say, this is why I'm leaving, which is a whole other conversation. But I just wanted to mention that because I know it's a big thing that people talk about.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, that's it. All right.
Was that your surprise this week in writing you said you had?
My surprise was K-pop Demon Hunters because I knew that you'd seen it, but we'd never talked about it. And I wanted your gut reaction on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard the remixes. Yeah, I don't care about that last This Week in Writing. Let's go back to K-pop Demon Hunters. No, I'm just kidding. All right. We can go into the main topic.
All right. Our main topic today is coming from one of our listeners who asked us, how do you multitask as a screenwriter and work on multiple projects? And I know Josh and I both do this, so we can talk about both of our different processes. So I'm going to start with Josh. Josh, How many projects are you working on right now?
3. One is just I'm waiting on notes back from a producer. One is a spec that you guys just read. And then another is actually getting notes again from a producer.
Okay. So 3 very different places, I feel like, in the process.
Yeah.
Do you also have an ideas? I feel like you have an idea journal, right? Where you're just always writing ideas and you have stuff on the back burner that you'll come up with an idea and throw that in there. Or you're kind of really back burner developing ideas as well.
Always. So someone just called me yesterday and was like, hey, and pitched something to me of an idea. And when ideas come that you get very excited about, it can consume you and really takes over your brain, and it kind of pulls from what you're working on a little bit because you're like, is that idea better? I'm excited about that. Should I start jotting ideas down? And before you know it, you're already doing something else.
Yeah. I struggle with that all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's a very important thing. I mean, that's because you get so excited. And if you don't write it down in that moment, you kind of lose the momentum.
I always get mad at you because you will pitch the coolest idea that's fairly fleshed out. And I'll be like, you better write that down right now. I swear to God, or I'll kill you. You're just I'll remember it. Just Josh.
I have a little bit of a rule that's really screwed me before, but I've been if I can't remember this tomorrow or the next day, then it wasn't good enough.
I hate this rule so much.
I think I might hate it too,
so
but I love it as well. It's this is just mean to myself. Anyway, can I throw it back on you, or are you still asking questions?
No. I just finished. I finished my last post-production meeting on Tomb Raider yesterday, which is very exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's now off my plate. There will be a lot of press and stuff that will be kind of these meetings that happen between now and our release date, but that's now off my plate. So that's important, which I'll talk about in a second in terms of now this project is moved off and something else can take its place. But that means I'm now in post-production on The Mighty Nine, my TV show at Amazon. I am writing a movie that is a paid job. I'm adapting a book into a movie, which is not a paid job, but I'm hoping to be done by this fall so that we can take it out end of this year or top of next year. I'm writing a movie with Josh. I'm developing a pitch for a producer based on a book. And then I literally have a couple dozen other projects that I'm just constantly thinking about. Josh has his thing, his journal, and I occasionally go into these. And I am going to fill that Tomb Raider slot with one of them. So literally I have about 20 projects that are just in the back of my brain at all times. For some of those, just to give context, I've written a 1-pager for literally 5 of them or so, which we could talk about as part of this process because it can be a really handy way to multitask with those back burner projects without having to devote a ton of time to it. If you do devote enough time to do a 1-pager, and by 1-pager, I mean 1 to 5 pages, maybe 1 to 3, of what this project is, then you can just kind of have it just sitting on your desktop somewhere. And when you live your life, you're driving your car, some idea might come up, and it can come up because you've thought out this project enough to put it in a 1-pager that it can exist in your mind for real. And so that's the most effective way to have a back burner idea, I think. So it's stuff that I've written a 1-pager about, or I'm revising a 1-pager about, or maybe I've just written a couple paragraphs about these. We've talked about Milanote on this podcast before. Josh is shaking his head because they refuse to advertise like at all anywhere. I've never seen an advertisement. Like, please come to us. We'll happily promote your program. But Milanote is another place where I would just like throw images or ideas into that folder, and that just exists somewhere in the ether. And I'm also simultaneously chasing other things through my reps, like books or submissions that come in. So it is a lot. We're going to talk about how we manage all of these things, because we are definitely advocates of multitasking, Josh and I, because we do feel like it is a necessary skill as a screenwriter. It just allows you to take on more jobs, to kind of hedge your bets, to put your eggs in more than one basket. And I think because movies and TV take so long to develop and to make, like, if Josh just had his one spec that's like whatever your priority is just going and that's it, A, I can't ever see you doing that, but B, just because you're a personality, like, and B, you don't have, like, you've wasted so much time, because so much of that priority spec is probably getting notes or sending it off to someone, and then you have nothing filling that space. So it becomes this task, this being able to multitask becomes important if you want to make a good living from this job, in our opinions. So let's get into how you do it. Okay, to me, the first important part of multitasking is know what your priority is. And I think your priority could be anything. It could be the project you're getting paid to do. It could be the thing that has the closest deadline. Maybe that's also the thing you're getting paid to do. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe it's a script you're writing for a film festival or a contest and that has a deadline, or it's a pitch you're writing and it has a timeline, like the producers are only hearing pitches in the next 2 weeks. Or it could be the thing, to Josh's point, that takes up the most brain power. So you need to spend the most time on it in order to get it done. So Josh, what would you say your priority is right now?
To be honest, it's the spec that I sent you.
Okay. Which is awesome.
But only because I feel like that has the most to do, or like the most work that has to be done. And because of that, I kind of prioritize it at the top, where I know that, because I kind of measure things by like my brain power and time. Because I don't know, I think you're much better than I am. I kind of, at some point, I'm done. I crash. Like my brain can't function after a certain point. And so the reason I'm saying that is because I kind of keep that at the forefront, because I know that if I let that go, I will just let that spec sit there. And I have a deadline set for myself, and that I talked to my reps about. And I was like, this is when this is going to be done. And that's it. So I put that on the top with the priorities, whereas I know the other things are so much more manageable that I can figure that out when I have to address a certain note or something like that. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense. And that's a great way of thinking about it. And I agree with how you figured out what your priority would be, like the one that has the most brain power, and then the other stuff is stuff that sort of requires less brain power, and you'll get to it kind of when you get to it.
Is that how you prioritize, or more deadlines?
So like it's both. So right now my priority is Mighty Nine, because this is a paid thing and it has a deadline of when it's going to come out. And then also I have two first priorities. The second one is this paid movie that I'm writing. And they're my priorities because they're jobs that I have to deliver on. So for Mighty Nine, because I'm not actively writing it, though you're constantly in post having to come up with creative solutions and rewrite lines and whatnot. But regardless, for Mighty Nine, it's a ton of meetings, and there's so many people in these meetings that I often don't get a say of when these meetings occur. They just kind of exist on my calendar, and I have to work my movie priority around it and all my other priorities around it. And it's different every single day and every single week. So how I handle these two priorities when they're the first is that I will look ahead at my schedule, and I'll see for the week I have a Mighty Nine meeting, let's say every day, because that often happens. And they're often a few hours at a time. So when it gets that tricky and that variable, because for me, and I think for most writers, I would say, habit is so important. Forming habits of when you write is very important. But right now, I can't create that habit because my meetings are so variable. So when it gets that tricky, I really have to schedule myself. And I want to talk about scheduling yourself because I think that is a really big key to multitasking effectively. I treat my writing time as actual meetings when it gets this busy. I will actually literally put it in my calendar, work on this movie, work on this script, read this script in this time. Obviously our brains are not the same. So think about how you work and do this version of whatever works for your brain. But for me, my brain works the best first thing in the morning. As soon as I wake up, there's like nothing better. My heaven is having nothing to do all day and waking up early and just sitting at my computer first thing with coffee. It's the best. But by the time lunch hits and my brain starts to get tired, I start to need another coffee, or I want to just quit. Just like 3 p.m. onward is basically when my brain starts to feel like we're done now. So typically that's when I would start to schedule something that requires less brain work, whatever these secondary projects are. And I'll talk about what those projects in the second position can look like, but let's just stick with scheduling for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, with this movie I'm writing, for example, this job, it's a very difficult script to write. Like you're saying, Josh, it takes up a lot of brain power. It's really difficult for me. There are a lot of moving pieces, both emotionally and action-wise, and I think the producers are expecting a certain level of finesse when they get this script that usually happens in later drafts, not in these first drafts. So for me, I know that my brain requires a longer ramp up to getting into writing this. Like if I just had 2 hours, I don't even bother. I'm not going to be able to work on this thing. Even 4 hours is a little, maybe not. 5 to 6 is probably the sweet spot for me in terms of being able to get into this project and like really exist in the space and be able to write effectively.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you mute your phone and turn it off or put do not disturb on?
No. Although there's a new app that's out that's like huge. It's like bigger than like Google in terms of downloads. That's called Focus something. I'm not sure. Paul turned me onto it where it shuts down all of your notifications for however long you want.
Oh.
And this little bean. It's like a little animated bean and he knits socks for you during that time. So like it kind of gamifies focusing.
Interesting.
But no, I don't.
So you don't get thrown off if something comes in?
I would be lying if I said I did not. In this block of working, I will often send an email as well. It like gives my brain a break. It helps me procrastinate. I have never been the kind of person to shut off other things. I should try it. I don't know if that would help me or not help me. I don't know.
Okay. I'm only asking because sometimes that can completely derail me. If an email comes in and I'm like, I have 4 hours to write, and then before you know it, like 35 minutes of your time had just kind of vanished because some important email or text message has come in and you're like, oh shit, I have to deal with this now.
Yeah. That's tough. I should do that when I have specifically like less hours to write. I think I'm usually good at self-monitoring myself. If I literally only have 4 hours to write and then I have a meeting, I know instinctively that I should address that email after or even in the meeting. Since it's a Zoom, I could just multitask in the meeting itself sometimes. So I'm typically good at monitoring myself, but you're right. I should work on that.
Okay.
So you get to a day where I have a bunch of, let's say, Mighty 9 meetings that take up most of my Monday morning when I write the best. And maybe I'm done with meetings at 3 p.m., which is when my brain works the worst. And yet it's too early to stop working. So for me, what I would do in that situation is I have a few choices, right? When something gets in the way, I could get up earlier in the day so that I can take advantage of my best brain before the day starts and before those meetings start. And if I'm doing that, I think I'm very realistic about what I can achieve before my meetings start in that day, which is, I could probably only do a scene, but at least I'm one scene further than I was yesterday. And that's really helpful to me. Or if getting up early is not in the cards for me that day, but I really do have to get through some of my priority project today, or I'm fucked with my deadline, then I know I have to then create an environment where I will be successful at writing on my difficult priority project, even if it's after 3 p.m. when my brain is tired. And that can look different for everybody, but for me, that probably means going somewhere without any distractions, which for me is a cafe, and I know that's counterintuitive, but when I'm at home, there's dog and husband distractions. There's the kitchen that I could go get a snack in, and etc. So
nothing better.
A cafe feels like an office to me sometimes. So just setting myself up for success if I know I have to do it when my brain doesn't work. Another thing that you can do if working on your priority project is just not going to happen today, but you still find yourself done with work or other things earlier enough that you can still have time to do something, rather than waste that time, I don't know, like scrolling your phone or watching something like trashy TV. This is when you can start to turn to your secondary projects, like Josh was talking about earlier. So more than likely, if I'm in meetings all day and my writing day isn't going to start until 3 p.m., I'm probably not going to work on my priority project. I'm probably more than likely going to turn to my secondary projects. So that means right now for me, what that means is like reading Josh and I's spec and continuing to like do notes on it and like get in there and like really polish it. It might be reading a book that got submitted to me. It might be writing that script that's easier, that book adaptation. That's really fun. Or if like none of those are even in the cards, at least watch something that's applicable. Don't watch the trashy TV, watch a show, watch, a pilot of a new thing that I've been wanting to watch a movie, watch something that feels like it will help me in some way with my writing, right? Again, I think the key there is like set yourself up for success, know how your brain works. And I think some people work better at night, which I don't understand personally, but schedule yourself accordingly the same way, just, in reverse, basically.
Something you said earlier about setting the habits, I think is probably the most important of all of this, because I think, we're all in our habits. It's great. And then something comes up and you think that you can take on that new thing that has come up with the same habits. But all of a sudden now you have like that new project. And this is something I've struggled with, where it's almost like you have to almost change your life a little bit to be like, okay, I have this new thing, which means, shoot, I can't go out on Wednesday nights anymore, or I have to get up a little earlier. This is how I'm going to have to do this, because now you're just prioritizing more, and now you have the thing in the first place, and then the second, and then the third. But for me, the habits have been probably the one thing that I'm always like most focused on when it comes to like multitasking, like what you're saying. I think that's like, that makes or breaks you.
Yeah, I think the more you can have habits in place, the more when something is thrown into the mix, it can't throw you as much. I don't know if you feel this way, Josh, but when I hear writers talk about, in panels or whatever, someone always asks like, what is your process? What is your day like? And they're like, I always get up at 7 a.m. and then I work out for an hour. And then I'm at my desk writing by 9 a.m. And then I write until 12 p.m. And then I take a lunch break with my wife. And then I'm like, how is every day like this? How do you, like, for authors, it makes more sense, I think, because you're just usually focused on one book at a time. For screenwriters, I don't get it. Unless you're rich, like unless you are literally able to only work on one thing at a time because financially you don't need the other things or the next new thing. You're so confident, you're David Koepp, you're definitely going to get another movie. Like maybe in that scenario, I would have a habit like that, but like I just can't even fathom living that way right now.
No, of course not. Yeah. I won't dive into that. I agree. Like sometimes you're like, what are you talking about?
What
like
are
that
you
sounds
talking about?
Fine and dandy, but like, what? Like, where are you doing this? How are you doing this? You do the same workout every single day. I'm sure there are people who do it, but it's just not sustainable. I don't think that's realistic.
I don't think so either. So to me, when I talk about habits, it's not that. It's not this regimented thing. It's honestly having the tools to learn how to schedule myself. It's having the tools to know, okay, when this new project comes into this slot that was not even there to begin with, my slots were full, and now I get a new project, I now have the tools to schedule myself appropriately. I know it needs to give, meaning I can wake up an hour earlier, whatever. Like, I know myself enough that I can make it work. That to me is like the habit that I'm forming right now. That's really helpful. And that's like my next big thing I want to talk about is to be intentional, to treat your writing like your job, even if you're not getting paid for it right now. Most of the things on my list of like 24 projects, when I talk about like other stuff I have, I'm not getting paid for any of these, right? And it's much harder to make time for the things you're not getting paid for. So to combat that lack of desire, that like, I want to take a break, I just want to relax, I want to try a new restaurant, go walk my dog, like literally do anything else, that's when scheduling really comes in. Because, okay, yes, I do have to walk my dog, but let's not do that till 6, so that from 3 to 6, I'm working on something, right?
Oh,
So
poor
being
Indy.
intentional with, I mean, it's hot out now. She doesn't want to go at 3 anyways. I tell myself. All right, let's turn to secondary projects. Josh, we already talked about your spec that you turned in, which is awesome. What kinds of secondary projects do you have on your plate right now? Like, what are they and what exactly stage are they in?
Okay. One of them is, well, I'll just say the spec we're working on.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one. Two, I have been getting notes back on a script actually that I wrote with somebody else. And there's some notes that have come up because we're trying to get a specific actress, or like the location had to change for various reasons, and so we're out to people, but there's still a few things that kind of pop up along the way. I have been on some calls, but fortunate to be on a few calls about kind of like the strategy of what's going on with it. So that's kind of handled, but I know more is going to come up in the process. Recently, a project I haven't even talked to you about this has come back into my life that might have to have some rewrites. Oh, I just remembered something else, actually. So I had written something with my wife, and I pitched it in a casual conversation to a producer not long ago. And I'm only bringing this up because this is not a huge project, but it's something that just takes brain power. And again, for me, this is like energy. I sat down with the person, they kind of had some ideas, and I was like, here's what I think is wrong with it. And I kind of had put this project on the back burner. It was a pilot about like private schools in Los Angeles. And I still love it, and I'm always thinking about it. It's that way in the back project. And the person had some ideas, and they were like, do you want to talk about this and maybe how I think this could look? And I was like, yeah, sure. So it's something like that kind of comes up, and now I'm like reading it again, and it's kind of like reignited some of my brain energy, for lack of a better term. And so that's just kind of comes back into your life, and that's not prioritized very high, but I'm only bringing this up because it's something that always just sits in your head as something that you need to get to. And then lastly, I'm developing something with a producer, and we just have calls about it.
Yeah.
So that's all over the place.
I was gonna say, that sounds to me like secondary and tertiary projects. Like
correct. Oh yeah, that was your question.
Yeah,
so I just went
I
off.
think I think that's a lot. That's cool.
I think this is what a lot of people kind of go through as well. And we talk about this all the time, is there's just all these things like floating around at various times. And it goes back to exactly what you just talked about, that like the prioritizing, multitasking of like, when do you work on something? What's important? But it's hard when something just pops in your head and you're like, oh, I have to think about this now. You end up thinking about it for an entire day, and then you realize you kind of half-assed everything else.
Yeah, I'm going to get into this in a second, but it's important to like have a slate and know what's the priority on that slate. You can't just start adding things to the slate, because there's literally just not enough time in a human day to do this. So something has to give, meaning if something comes in, like a producer is now interested in an old project and now it feels like there's a deadline and you're renewed, something else on your slate has to drop back to a different tier so that that one can come up. And that is a part of multitasking, because otherwise you will burn yourself out. So that is also a part of being intentional, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, is knowing what your slate is. to the point where if anyone asks you, hey, what are you working on? You're like, boom, 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 boom. Rather than like, oh, I got maybe like this other thing. It's like, no, you know exactly what you're working on, what stage they're at, etc. So for me, I also have like secondary, tertiary, quaternary, which is a word I had to look up.
Is that real?
Projects. It's a real word. So secondary for me right now, even though it's a priority in my heart, is the spec I'm working on with Josh. And the reason it's taken me so long right now is and the stage that it's at for clarity is that Josh did an excellent job at revising. He sent that to me a month ago now. And I am rereading the whole thing and doing line notes because we're like in that polish stage where we got to send it to our reps and we just want to make it perfect. So I'm in there reading, and basically that slot is when I have time after all the things I just talked about. That's where that gets put. I also have a pitch document that I'm writing for a producer based on a book they want to adapt. They gave me notes on that, so now I have to revise it. So that's something that's in that secondary slot. I'm also supervising another writer on an animated TV show, so that's in a second slot, and it's secondary because it's very important. We need to get this show greenlit, but also I'm not the one writing it; she is. So it's not really a priority, like top priority for me, brain space wise. So technically, those are in my secondary category. My tertiary category are going to be projects that are more nascent, right? Like all that secondary stuff is all stuff that needs revisions. It's stuff that's being really close to being done. That's going to actually yield a job pretty soon, hopefully. My tertiary category then is all like my spec ideas, right? And now that my work on Tomb Raider is pretty much done, I have an empty slot in that top priority column, and my spec with Josh is now going to move into that slot. It now becomes a first priority. So now the time I would have spent on Tomb Raider stuff, now I get to finally read and finish the spec in 2 notes. So yeah, so the idea that like one of your spec ideas now gets to kind of like move up the ladder is how you should sort of think about your categories, right? Now in my tertiary category are all the projects I sort of like always think about, and I'll jot some things down, I'll ruminate on them, I'll throw some stuff in the outline that already exists or the one pager that already exists. I think the closest thing to a complete story in this tertiary category is going to be those very rough one pagers that I talked about before that have a lot of holes in them still that I'm trying to fill. So now I get to pick basically like one thing since the Josh script that I have moves from my secondary category into my priority. Now there's a new opening in my secondary category. Now a spec now gets to move into that category. So that's again is important to think about your slate in that way. And then after my conversation with my reps last week, that spec idea that was very nascent, that was very much in the back burner, now gets to move into my secondary priority, which is great. And it's going to be this father-daughter revenge thriller, which you've read a little bit about already, Josh. I cooked this idea up on my family trip with my dad in Hong Kong this year. And I pitched this to my reps, actually, in this meeting that I mentioned at the top of the episode. And it was kind of like, these are a few ideas I have. Like, do you have any sense of like which one I should maybe make my priority? Because I'm going to do all of them. Just tell me like which one you feel like would make the most sense given my goals within the next year. And they said, look, you have a bunch of stuff that's got world building elements in it. Why don't you do something that's smaller, like this, like more character driven, affordable revenge thriller? So that's gonna move up the slot, and I'm gonna start working on that. And you guys are gonna start seeing that in writers group.
Let's go.
I know. So that was a lot of things to say, but the point of saying it is that another important aspect about multitasking is to always be working. You should never come upon a day, I think literally not a single day, without knowing what you should be working on. That doesn't mean you literally have to work on those things every day. It just means that every day you know what's on your slate, what you need to be working on, and what stage that they're at. So if you want to take days off, which you absolutely should, we also need to live in the world, right? In order to write about the world. But what we're talking about here is scheduling yourself, knowing what your slate is, knowing your priorities, so that when you do take a day off, you know where you immediately should come back to, right? You know exactly what your next priority is. And I think that is what can help you when a curveball is thrown at you at work or by your family, because then you just get to scheduling yourself, turn back to that habit so that you can get your stuff done. And I will say that I'm definitely not perfect at this. I don't want it to seem like because we're talking about it, we are experts at it. My parents visited last week and I got nothing done. like I read our spec when I could, because that was a thing I could do. I could like read something, and while they were watching something, I could do that. But actual writing time was absolutely impossible. But I think the difference between someone who can multitask and someone who can't is that in that scenario, I still had a list of things I could do. I still knew I could read your script because I knew what my other priorities were and I knew what brain power that required. I'm like, oh, well, if I'm just sitting here while they watch the Dodger game, like I could read the script. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's completely important because I think the thing with multitasking and just having responsibilities is that when the curveball comes in, when someone's parents comes into town, I'm actually going to be gone this weekend, right? Like it's those things where when next week hits, you kind of already know your habits and you know your rhythm and you know what you can tackle, you know what's on your slate. So everything you said is great, and it prepares you for the curveballs essentially, which are inevitable. That happens every week.
Yep, it can easily throw you. Okay, the final thing I'm going to say about multitasking is about this organization. And I've just used the word slate a few times, and knowing what your slate is. And slate is, of course, how producers and studio execs refer to their list of projects that they're working on. And this is a trick I learned when I worked at Universal as an assistant, because for every meeting, my boss would have me print out a buck slip with her slate on it. And for a studio exec, it's like 30 plus projects that are in various stages, the same way it is with us. And a buck slip is this long, like narrow piece of cardstock, and execs would have it to take in with into meetings so that they could write notes, but they'd also have their slate on it so that if they met with a writer and the writer's a sci-fi writer and they're really driving with this person, they can look down at their list of movies and say, hey, we have an OWA for this sci-fi movie I'm doing. You'd be great for. Like, do you want to do this? So buck slip with your slate on it, I think, is a very important tool. I literally bought a bunch of buck slips from Amazon recently. It took hours for me to figure out how to print them on my printer, but I finally did, and it's worth it because now I have this list on my desk of my priorities, my current projects, my secondary priorities, etc. And that can really help me if I get a curveball. I'm like, fuck. Okay, let me go down my list. Well, I don't have the brain power for this, or this. Oh, I could do that. I could read that thing. That's easy enough. And because it's in order of what my priorities are, it really feels like I'm making headway. So that to me is super important, knowing your slate. Think of yourself as the CEO of your own company, and this is your slate. I also hear a lot of people say that I'm just not good at multitasking. And maybe that's true. Maybe your brain literally cannot do it. But I would challenge you to find that out for sure before throwing your hands up and thinking, well, my brain just doesn't work that way. Because what I just described is not just something I came out of the womb knowing how to do, right? It's something that am trying constantly to learn to do and to get better at. And this buck slip thing, I haven't printed it out in a month. But I know it's there, and when I start to stress out and I start to lose focus on multitasking, I print that shit out and I'm back on task.
Hell yeah.
Building habits, so fucking important, depending on how your brain works, right? That's my multitasking TED Talk.
I think it's great. There's one other thing I just wanted to throw in.
Go.
This takes time, what I'm about to say, but kind of training yourself how to move on from one thing to the next. And it's almost like having baggage that you're carrying over. It's very hard to go from, oh, I just wrote for 6 hours and now I have to work on something else. That is insanely hard because you're kind of still thinking, you're like, wait a minute. Oh, I've been in scenarios where I've solved the problem for one thing while I'm working on another thing. And then I close that thing and then you go back to write the other thing. And that's something I always think about in the multitasking. It's just I need a little buffer of time before I can just dive into something else, because man, it is, you just linger. It's like having like a residue from the previous project.
Yeah. I have developed a skill, I don't know how this happened, to completely shut off the other project. And I cannot express how valuable that is. And I believe Hemingway said this, but Hemingway would he would stop writing the day before. He would stop writing before he hit like the climax of what he was going to do. So that when he started writing the next day, he would just reread it and then be like so charged up that like he couldn't stop writing. Like he would never have writer's block because he would always kind of leave himself on a cliffhanger. There's something about how I think about projects that's kind of, I don't know if this is related to literally that story. Like I'm very good at like, okay, I've hit the 4-hour mark on this project. That's all I've allotted myself for, or it's now lunchtime. I am done. And after lunch, I'm going to work on something else because I know that after lunch, my brain is more tired and I can't go back to the thing I was really charged to write at the beginning of the day. So I'm going to work on my secondary priorities. I would say that like taking a break, no matter how small, between those two projects becomes very important. Usually lunch is a good one. Taking a walk, just getting out of that habit of where you were with like sometimes I'll relocate. Like sometimes I'll go sit on the couch for the second half of the day to like work on whatever that thing is or go outside or something. Like it does help to like physically separate yourself. But because I have so many projects, I think I'm really good at being like, well, fuck this project now because I got to go work on this one and I'll just get to it the next day. And I know I'll be still excited to write about it the next day, I guess is where the Hemingway connection comes in.
Yeah. Takes time.
But yeah, it's work. It's work to learn how to multitask. But I think our argument is that it's super worth it because in my experience anyways, I have found that people have more confidence in me as a writer and want to hire me because they know I can multitask, that I won't get overwhelmed by a project, that I won't if I have multiple things, I won't just get distracted and not turn something in, which definitely happens with writers. Multitasking has allowed me to better plan for my future after the current job that I have. Because who knows I don't have a paycheck lined up for next year. And because I can multitask, I can set myself up for success of preparing things that could become jobs next year. So give multitasking a shot, even if you don't think you're good at it. Let us know if you have multitasking tips and tricks. Like leave those in the comments, share them with us over email, whichever you like to do. If you have further questions or specific questions about multitasking that we didn't cover today, also DM us, email us. We'll answer anything for you. We love this topic. Quote of the day.
Yeah.
People do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. FM Alexander. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.